And stand. Gracious Heavenly Father, we do thank you and praise you for this opportunity to come together. We just pray for our soldiers domestically and abroad, Father, you keep them safe. We pray for this upcoming holiday season, Father, that you would just meet their needs, Father, that people would give, send to them, that they would know they're not forgotten, Father, and that they're out there protecting our rights and our way of life. Father, we just thank you and praise you for this country, that where we can meet together without fear of repercussion. We just pray for your will and your wisdom, and that you help us to do that which is pleasing in your sight. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Going for a pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask Carol to come up and give us an education report. I'll load this down.
I'm too short. Okay. First of all, the class that I was holding, we finished on Monday night. I had my last lesson there with 13 wonderful people. We had a great class. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my new class. I talked to you before, and you'll probably hear it next month again. I'm going to start a class in this book, Making of America, over 800 pages. Not hard to read, however. I will start in January. We will meet once a month. We're going to meet the second Wednesday of the month. It's going to take 2 years. If you want information, I have slips of paper back on my table with my address on and all the information about when we're meeting. And you can pick up a slip, and also you can sign up. There's a sheet to sign up. I have space for a few people yet. I have some people signed up already. So I have, some people talked to me last month, but I didn't get their names or anything. So if you want to come back there and sign up for me, I need either a phone number or an email, because I need to be able to communicate with you. So come on back and sign up, or get the sheet that tells you the information. Okay, next thing. I was asked to read this. You might have seen it on the internet. It says, folks, you are all familiar with the players kneeling in the NFL. Well, the problem is not the knee. Children raised in fatherless homes, especially black children, are far more likely than children raised in two-parent homes to engage in criminal behavior, and thus have contact with the police. Ergo, when these football players father a child with a woman to whom they are not married, or at least living with, they are contributing to the problem against which these football players are taking a knee. If you look at many of these players' records on out-of-wedlock children, you find they are contributing significantly to the problem against which they are protesting. For example, Antonio Cromartie has 12 children by 9 different women. Apparently, the NFL had to shell out $500,000 before he could even play football for them. Travis Henry has 11 children by 10 women. Willis McGahee has 9 children by 8 women. Derek Thomas has 7 children by 5 different women. Benny Blades has 6 children by 6 women. Ray Lewis has 6 children by 4 women. And Marshall Falk has 6 children by 3 women. Before these guys take a knee, they should take a good look in the mirror. It appears their problem is not the knee.
That was very good, Carol. And someone just came up and reminded me, you know the Pittsburgh Steelers always has out an empty chair for the missing soldiers and the MIAs. Did you know that? They're the only team in the NFL to do that, so that's something pretty significant, I think.
Jeff. to show.
Well, then we should ban ESPN. Yeah, boycott, yeah, that's what I meant, boycott. Okay, now we have Linda.
All right. I just want to talk about the rally that we had on Saturday to support the veterans and not support the NFL. This was one of the signs Sam made. We had a good time. The weather was great. The sun was shining, and it wasn't cold at all. I encourage you all to come out to a rally. We're going to have more of them. Fred, you left too soon. The guy stopped with coffee for all of us. Yeah, that was really nice. And we invited him to the meeting, but it was from Lancaster. But he saw us there, figured we were cold, and stopped. We got coffee for the whole bunch of us. So you already left. I thank all of you people that came out. Is there anybody else in the audience that was there on Saturday? You were. Thank you very much. Are you going to come to the next one? Okay. We'll let you know. Just keep checking your emails, okay? We'll let you know when it's going to be. Okay. In celebration of Veterans Day, I'm going to read an article that was written by a school teacher in Wisconsin. And here it is. Each year I'm hired to go to Washington, D.C. with the 8th grade class from Clinton, Wisconsin, where I grew up, to videotape their trip. I greatly enjoy visiting our nation's capital, and each year I take some special memories back with me. This fall's trip was especially memorable. On the last night of our trip, we stopped at the Iwo Jima Memorial. This memorial is the largest bronze statue in the world and depicts one of the most famous photographs in history, that of the 6 brave soldiers raising the American flag at the top of a rocky hill on the island of Iwo Jima, Japan, during World War II. Over 100 students and chaperones piled off the buses and headed toward the memorial. I noticed a solitary figure at the base of the statue, and as I got closer, he asked, "Where are you guys from?" We told him that we were from Wisconsin. "Hey, I'm a cheesehead too. Come gather around, cheeseheads, and I will tell you a story." It was James Bradley, who just happened to be in Washington, D.C. to speak at the memorial the following day. He was there that night to say goodnight to his dad, who had passed away. He was just about to leave when he saw the buses pull up. I videotaped him as he spoke to us and received his permission to share what he said from my videotape. It was one thing to tour the incredible monuments filled with history in Washington, D.C., but it's quite another to get the kind of insight we received that night. When all had gathered around, he reverently began to speak. Here are his words that night. "My name is James Bradley, and I'm from Antigua, Wisconsin. My dad is on that statue, and I wrote a book called Flags of Our Fathers. It is the story of the 6 boys you see behind me. 6 boys raised the flag. The first guy putting the pole in the ground is Harlan Blanc. Harlan was an all-state football player. He enlisted in the Marine Corps with all the senior members of the football team. They went off to play another type of game, a game called war. But it didn't turn out to be a game. Harlan, at the age of 21, died with his intestines in his hands." I don't say that to gross you out. I say that because there are people who stand in front of this statue and talk about the glory of war. You guys need to know that most of the boys in Iwo Jima were 17, 18, and 19 years old. And it was so hard that the ones who did make it home never even would talk to their families about it. He pointed to the statue. He said, "You see this next guy? That's Renee Gagnon from New Hampshire." If you took Renee's helmet off at the moment this photo was taken and looked in the webbing of that helmet, you would find a photograph of his girlfriend. Renee put that in there for protection because he was scared. He was 18 years old. It was just boys who won the Battle of Iwo Jima. Boys, not old men. The next guy here, the third guy in this tableau, was Sergeant Mike Strank. Mike is my hero. He was a hero of all these guys. They called him the old man because he was so old. He was already 24. When Mike would motivate his boys in training camp, he didn't say, let's go kill some Japanese or let's die for our country. He knew he was talking to little boys. Instead, he would say, you do what I say and I'll get you home to your mothers. The last guy on the side of this statue is Ira Hayes, a Pima Indian from Arizona. Ira Hayes was one of them who lived to walk off Iwo Jima. He went into the White House with my dad. President Truman told him, you're a hero. He told reporters, how can I feel like a hero when 250 of my buddies hit the island with me and only 27 of us walked off alive? So you take your class at school, 250 of you spending a year together, having fun, doing everything together. Then all 250 of you hit the beach, but only 27 of your classmates walk off alive. That was Ira Hayes. He had images of horror in his mind. Ira Hayes carried the pain home with him and eventually died dead drunk, face down, drowned in a very shallow puddle at the age of 32, 10 years after this picture was taken. The next guy going around the statue is Franklin Sosley from Hilltop, Kentucky. A fun-loving hillbilly boy. His best friend, who is now 70, told me, yeah, you know, we took 2 cows up on the porch of the Hilltop General Store. Then we strung wire across the stairs so the cows couldn't get down. Then we fed them Epsom salts. Those cows crapped all night. Yes, he was a fun-loving hillbilly boy. Franklin died on Iwo Jima at the age of 19. When the telegram came to his mother that he was dead, it went to the Hilltop General Store. A barefoot boy ran the telegraph up to his mother's farm, and the neighbors could hear her scream all night into the morning. Those neighbors lived a quarter-mile away. The next guy, as we continue to go around the statue, is my dad, John Bradley, from Antigua, Wisconsin, where I was raised. My dad lived until 1994, but he would never give interviews. When Walter Cronkite producers or the New York Times would call, we were trained as little kids to say, no, I'm sorry, sir, my dad's not here. He's in Canada fishing. No, there is no phone there, sir. No, we don't know when he's coming back. My dad never fished or even went to Canada. Usually he was sitting there right at the table eating his Campbell soup, but he had to tell the press that he was out fishing. He didn't want to talk to the press. You see, like Ira Hayes, my dad didn't see himself as a hero. Everyone thinks these guys are heroes because they are in the photo and on the monument. But my dad knew better. He was a medic. John Bradley from Wisconsin was a combat caregiver. On Iwo Jima, he probably held over 200 boys as they died. And when boys died on Iwo Jima, they writhed and screamed without any medication or help with the pain. When I was a little boy, my 3rd grade teacher told me that my dad was a hero. When I went home and told my dad that, he looked at me and said, I want you always to remember that the heroes of Iwo Jima are the guys who did not come back. Did not come back. So that's a story about 6 nice young boys. 3 died on Iwo Jima and 3 came back as national heroes. Overall, 7,000 boys died on Iwo Jima in the worst battle in the history of the Marine Corps. My voice is giving out, so I will end here. Thank you for your time. Suddenly, the monument wasn't just a big old piece of metal with the flag sticking out of the top. It came to life before our eyes with the heartfelt words of a son who did indeed have a father who was a hero. Maybe not a hero for the reasons most people would believe, but a hero nonetheless. One thing I learned while on tour with my 8th grade class in DC that is not mentioned here, and that is if you look at the statue very closely and count the number of hands raising the flag, there are 13. When the man who made the statue was asked why there was 13, he simply said, the 13th hand was the hand of God. I think that's a great story.
All right. At this time, I'd like to bring forth Sam Brancadora to talk about the BCP elections. Sam?
That's one of the things. I got 3 others. I'll tell you, folks, that's why we don't kneel. Well, I got 4 topics. First is my soapbox. This hit a little personal, that's why I want to read this. This is the opening headline by the Daily Mail. Yale admit shamed on Facebook for her white privilege. A student accepted to the Yale School of Medicine who posted her big news on Facebook was shamed when another user wrote that she was accepted due to her white privilege. A student accepted to Yale University who posted her big news on Facebook wasn't congratulated, but shamed for what one critic called her white privilege. In the Facebook post cited by the Daily Mail, an unnamed user wrote about her acceptance into Yale School of Medicine. Now, folks, can you imagine how proud this young lady must have felt? Well, it wasn't long before another user named Melissa, that's not her real name, said the Yale accepted the future student because of her white privilege. Good job. Might I add a shout out to you for your white privilege, Melissa said. Facebook user Melissa told the Yale University future student that she was accepted into the prestigious school because of her white privilege. A back and forth ensued on Facebook, with Melissa claiming that the future Yale student was accepted because she comes from a white privileged background. Melissa continued, "You made it seem like you did it all yourself. But I'm just keeping things real by giving you a nod to your privilege." The young lady, the student that was admitted to Yale, she continued, and she says she got into the Ivy League school, explained that she grew up in a foster care with her alcoholic parents who gave her up when she was 5 years old. She continued, "I had to take care of my brother for 2 years until we got adopted. And then we were both abused by that family and had to go back into the orphanage for another 2 years. I spent long nights studying and working part-time in high school just to support myself and my brother. I was lucky enough to have good grades and get into a decent undergrad." The student wrote, according to the Daily Mail, she detailed the 8 years she spent working hard to get accepted into college. However, Melissa concluded the conversation with, "Okay, sweetie, you claim to understand privilege, but you can't even self-critique. Bye now." Folks, the prestigious Yale School of Medicine is considered highly competitive. Only 6.5% of its 4,425 applicants were accepted into the class of 2020, according to the university's online figures. Folks, I said this at home. We have a granddaughter, named Noelle. She worked her butt off for 4 years in Penn State, in high school, to get into Penn State. She worked even harder for the next 4 years and went through many interviews, and she also got accepted into Yale this year. Now, I'm telling you this story because I know, and Linda knows, how hard she worked. Studying 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, getting no sleep, giving up personal life, that's what she did. I can tell you that our granddaughter, Noelle, did not get accepted into Yale because of the color of her skin. And this other girl, young lady, did not either. She got accepted because of the hard work that she did and the dedication. And if this Melissa or anyone like Melissa would try to do the same as they did, maybe their life would be improved instead of belittling others. So yes, this did hit home a little bit. Okay. A few weeks ago, I sent something out to everybody because we were concerned that Antifa was going to have a demonstration throughout the states and possibly, here somewhere on the 4th, I guess it was. Yeah, Saturday the 4th. Yeah, Saturday the 4th. I want to read part of what I sent out and also I follow up. Please be very vigilant this weekend. Antifa has declared massive demonstrations and unrest throughout our country November 4th. Wherever Antifa goes, there's usually violence and destruction. Should they come, they will try to incite you into violence. Do not fall into their trap. Be peaceful, but protect yourself and loved ones. What is Antifa? Radical leftist policies of social revolution applied to fighting the far right. Its adherents are predominantly communists, socialists, anarchists who reject turning to the police or the state. Antifa no longer pretends who they are. They now proudly display the hammer and sickle on the banners and clothing, as well as Castro, Mao, and Che. You can Google this. You'll see it walking down the streets with their demonstrations. They want to fundamentally change our country. You might have heard that expression once or twice before. They do not want democracy. They do not want capitalism. They do not want our Constitution. Do you know what Antifa stands for? Anti-fascism. What is fascism? Fascism, in part, is taking control of the people to do their will. One of the ways you accomplish this is to suppress the rights of others to speak. Antifa exercises dictatorial control wherever they can. Antifa is the one who suppresses the rights of the opposition to speak. Antifa is what they say they are against. If you do not agree with them, you are the enemy. They will shut you down wherever you go. You see this happening all over our country, colleges, universities, and town halls. If you do not agree with them, you will not be allowed to speak. You do not have free speech. They do not believe in the Constitution. Unfortunately, some of our youth have got caught up in this rhetoric. They are cowards, hiding behind masks. Look to history. Who do they remind you of? Follow up. Now, this is from an article from, Calico Park from Fox News. Headline: Antifa, left-wing anti-Trump protest nationwide turned out to be a dud. The left-wing plan to overthrow President Trump's regime with continuous protests in more than a dozen cities nationwide on Saturday was seemingly a dud. The far-left, so-called anti-fascism group had hoped for 1 million people in gatherings held in cities such as Chicago, Seattle, LA, San Francisco, Honolulu, Philadelphia, Boston, Portland, Washington, and New York City. But it appears, instead of having 1 million in each one of those cities, the most they got was maybe 1,000, and some only a handful. Folks, yes, it was a dud. Thank the Lord. However, they are not going away. They are dangerous. They're dangerous to you. They're dangerous to your loved ones. They're dangerous to our country. They're dangerous to our way of life. So, folks, please, please be vigilant. I also found out just recently, Antifa has a chapter in Berks County. I happened to go on the webpage, and actually it's Facebook, and I found a person who I know, many in this room knows, under the likes on the Facebook page. Now, most likely, he was doing enemy surveillance like I was, and probably hit the wrong button. So if you happen to go on the page, please be careful. I would suggest you don't go on at all, because they sort of get credit for a hit if you go on. But as I said earlier, they're not leaving, they're here, please be careful. Okay, folks, I want to give you an update on the Tri-County Tea Party Coalition. Now, the coalition, the coalition was formed by 5 of us, 4 different groups, and 3 different counties. That's Lebanon County, Berks County, and Lehigh County. It was formed just for the 2018 election. And the purpose of the coalition is for us to have private meetings with some of the 2018 candidates, particularly the governorship, the U.S. Senate, as well as a congressman, U.S. congressman, and others if possible. We will have private meetings with them. We will evaluate their positions on issues that we're all concerned with, and sometime before the primary, we will put out a voter's guide. Last month, I told you we met with, governor candidates, Paul Langell, Scott Wagner, and we also had met with U.S. Congressman Lou Barletta. Now, Lou is running for U.S. Senate. Since then, we met with Scott Ulinger, who is running for Dent's seat, that's the U.S. Congress. Matter of fact, Scott's here, right? Scott, okay. And is anybody here bothered or upset that Dent is leaving? Anybody upset about that? Okay. Good. Well, there we go. That's what we wanted to hear. Okay. We have other meetings planned. We hope to be visiting or have them visit us 3 to 4 within the next month or so. Matter of fact, I just got an email from Brian McKenzie. He wants to meet, just so you know that, Scott. Okay. Also this week, you might have noticed that Mike Torzai has announced. We expected he was going to. He has. We'll have to see where that goes. We will send him an invitation as well. Linda, you're falling down your job. Linda, you're falling down your job. Election. Election.
Stop. All the people that are...
Okay, folks, my last duty for this session here, we're going to have VCP general election. Before I get into the new nominees, I want to thank Linda Brancadora and Eldon. They are not up for election, but they agreed to stay on for next year, so we appreciate that. Nominees, if you'd all come up here, please. No particular order. I did? Who told you I had to go out? Oh, yes. Yes, you do have to go out. And Ron has to go out, too. Everybody. Come on. Come on, come on. The reason you had to come up is that your term expired. It will expire, okay? Okay, folks, now to announce, I hope we have everybody here. I know one person is missing. First of all, I want to introduce your name. Take a step forward. That's not like the military. That does that. Okay. Rod Miller. Rod is our current legislative committee chair. You're going to take a bigger step than that. Okay. Judy Pelka, current events chair. I didn't tell you to step back. Take over. Paul Brooker, current financials. There you go, secretary. Okay. Now we have new nominees. Ray Buster here. Ron Danner. Tom Gross. Jack Hamlet is not here. Ed Lay is not here, and Evan Fedor, is that what it is? Fedor? Okay, great. Just stay there, folks. Okay, folks, the nominations are closed. Nominations were open for the whole month of October, October 1st and October 31st. Nominees have been posted on our website, so you have ample time to vet them out. We have 10 board openings. We have 9 nominees. Therefore, per our bylaws, should the number of board nominees be equal to or less than the board positions open, a ballot is not necessary. A hand, yes or no vote of all nominees is acceptable. So now that's what we're going to do. All those in favor of these 9, Susan Johnson as well, being elected to the 2018 BCP board, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Ayes have it. Larry, you will record that as such. Congratulations, 2018 board. Okay? You may now have a seat. Folks, the election is over. However, our need for help still exists. We still have one board open and several committee positions open. You can no longer be elected as these folks were, but you can be nominated to the board. So if there's anybody who has an interest, knows someone that might be interested in helping us out, we certainly would appreciate that. Thank you very much, and I'm done. And see who's next. Oh, Greg. Greg, you'd like to come up? What's your project? What is this?
This is our letter writing.
Okay, good.
Okay, all you folks that have signed up with us and sent letters, have you gotten any response back from any of the representatives? We noticed that too. So from now on, when we send one to the representative, we're going to ask for either a yes, a no, or his position on it. So if we get enough in there, they have to respond to us. But right now, they're trying to ignore us, and we're not going to let that happen. Now, many of you in this room are old enough to know about the hit song, Pistol Packin' Mama, and quite a few of you are packing a legally purchased registered firearm. You are, in fact, pistol packing Berks County Patriots. We all know Pennsylvania protects your right to open carry or to conceal carry with an issued permit. The protections under those rights stop at the border of Pennsylvania. Once you leave Pennsylvania, you are governed by the laws of that other state, and in some states and cities and counties can pass their own gun carry restriction laws. Yes, there are reciprocity laws with other states, but you have to be a legal scholar to understand what the restrictions and what laws you might be breaking if you took your weapon across a country trip to the West Coast. Even here locally, many of you might not know you could be arrested if you inadvertently carry your weapon into the post office or even on the post office parking lot. That's a federal jurisdiction and federal laws apply. So this month, our letter writers are asking our congressman in Washington to support a co-sponsored H.R. 38, an act that would make your Pennsylvania permit reciprocity nationwide, allowing you to carry in all 50 states, even as a non-resident of that state. At last count, we had 212 co-sponsors in the House, 10 of which were from Pennsylvania, but only Lloyd Smucker and Charlie Dent from our area co-sponsored it. So Charlie did come across on that one. If you haven't signed up to be on our list of letter writers, come back to our table, it's right back there, to fill out a card so you can join it for next month's letter writing. Remember, driver's license, marriage license, and even high school diplomas are reciprocity, recognized by every state in the country. Why not gun carrying permits? While I have the mic here, if any of you have any ideas on how to make this a better organization, or how to increase attendance or participation, see Larry or myself back at the table. Remember, it all started with the words, "We the people." Please don't forget, you are those people. Let God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Sam was supposed to introduce me. I guess he didn't want to. I got to tell you, Sam, I ran for school boards, I ran for county township commissioner, I even ran for the state legislature one time on a third-party ticket back in the 70s. I never won an election. I didn't have a campaign to be on this board, but I won. Don't think it. I want to point one thing out that Ray overlooked on that letter writing. We had Congressman Smugger here a couple of months ago, and I approached him on the parking lot, and we put some letters out to him that he was noticeably absent on the National Right to Work bill. I can tell you that on October the 19th, I checked with Washington, and he's on the bill. So it did some good. So don't look lightly at these letter writing episodes. It's just an effort of fertility. So I encourage you to see Ray and be part of that, because these people need to be heard, and we need to be heard. Okay. Sam told me to give a report on the election. And Sam said he's brief. So, here's my report. My report is, we elected 2 row officers, we elected a Berks County judge, we elected a bunch of state judges, and the proposition passed. That's my report.
Fantastic, Rob!
Okay. Now, actually, as you know, we certainly elected a bunch of judges this last time around. And you don't always think of them as important. It's a mundane election, but give it some thought here. We put a Supreme Court justice in, or I should say, he was appointed and approved by Congress. And that Judge Gorsuch is going to have a significant impact on any kind of 5-4 votes, so that's important. And I'll give you another example. The state Supreme Court. I mentioned this in the past, that we in this state are digging into a debt that's exceeding $60 billion that is owed to the public pension system and political pension system. They're in it together. Now, you remember the Supreme Court ruled that pensions are a benefit, and benefits aren't mentioned in the Constitution. Therefore, benefits are considered, in their view, constitutional. Well, I remind you that Article 2, Section 8 of the Pennsylvania Constitution reads, "Members of the General Assembly
shall receive salary and mileage and no other compensation whatever. Pension increase, we gave the public employees, school teachers, 25%. I think that was to keep things quiet among them. All this with insufficient funding. Now, if we had the right Supreme Court team in there, do you think they'd have ruled that pensions are constitutional based on what I just read? It's important, folks, who you put in as judges. You may not think it's important until you got to face one day, and then you'll think twice. So, okay, what is the report? Well, first of all, as you know, we elected an incumbent, J.D. Del Cabo, to the Thunatory. J.D. was a Republican. We elected Dennis Hess as a coroner, re-elected him. He was a Democrat. So generally, I'd say, while we did vote in incumbents, people did split their ballots in Berks County. County judge, as you most likely know, Ben Navarez won, defeated Tina Boyd. Navarez was a Republican, Tina Boyd ran as a Democrat. And what can we read into that? Well, if you consider the Democrats are 113,000 registered voters, and Republicans are 98,000, again it shows Berks County voters split their ticket. You can even consider that Beebe spent 77,000 for his campaign, and his opponent spent 436,000. So I guess you can conclude that money isn't necessarily what it takes to win an election. So, and I might say that Trump carried Berks County 93,000 to 75,000. Is that a referendum on Trump? He pulled more votes than the Democrat, even though the Democrats outnumbered Republicans in Berks County. I can only report and let you decide, as Fox says. So what did we have? Well, in the state judges, the Supreme Court, we were to elect one, and Monday, the Republican won over Woodruff, the Democrat. And the vote, where in Berks County, we were 36,000 to 26,000 in favor of Monday. Statewide, she was 1.1 million versus 970,000 for Woodruff. So we basically mirrored the way the state voted. Saylor also was up, for retention, and Berks County gave him retention of 30,000 votes to 14, and the state was 1 million to 500,000, so we probably did a little better than the state in the plurality there. Todd also was up for retention, and he pulled in 28,000 yeses and 15,000 noes. Again, in the state, 1.1 million against 500,000. So again, we were pretty near the trend of the state. Superior Court, we elected 3 Democrats and 1 Republican. McLaughlin, the Democrat, 24,000 votes in Berks County, 1 million across the state. Nichols, the Democrat, 23,000 in Berks, 97 across the state, 97,000. Milford, 21,000 in the county, 885,000 in the state. And Stedman had a surrogate here at our meeting, and he spoke. Stedman actually lost. He had 29,000 in Berks County, and 907,000 across the state. So He was not a winner. Councilman won, 24,000 in Berks, and $1 million in the state. Murray also won, that's the 4 with Murray, 24,000 in Berks, almost 25,000, 912,000 in the state. The others, Kagarize, he lost. Giordano, he lost. Jokin, he was up for retention, he carried. Commonwealth Court, Cannon, the Republican, she pulled 30,000 in the county, 98,000 in the state. She was the winner. Lolly, he pulled 29,000 in the county, nearly as many as Cannon. 904,000 in the state. He lost. Clark lost similarly, 22,000 in the county, 950 in the state. And Seisler, the Democrat, 23,000 in Berks and 980,000 in the state, and he won. So we had Cannon winning as a Republican and Seisler winning as a Democrat. Now, next one, that's the candidates. Now, the referendum. Referendum, 39.5 yeses, 39,500 yeses in Berks County, and 11.7 thousand noes for the referendum. And that's the referendum of, would you support a change in the Pennsylvania Constitution to allow for homestead exemptions for your school property tax. That amounts to 77% of Berks County voted in favor of the referendum, 23% opposed. Statewide, 955,000 yeses, 815,000 noes. And that's only a 54% versus 46% yes. So Berks County, now Berks County was ground zero for this referendum. Every legislator and senator representing any or part of Berks County, they were on board with it. So we had, legislative-wise, we had support for our view of where this should go. Actually, we were only, I think, third highest in the county. I think there were 2 counties that pulled a higher number. I think they were Carbon and New Cumberland, I believe. I think there were 2 counties where the Dean Plot group were picketing those areas or grabbing in those areas to organize the populace and a vote in favor. So it would suggest that they did some good with their rallies, and that was encouraging. As far as the resolution or the referendum itself goes, I mentioned some of this before. The ambiguity in this resolution that bothered me. In fact, did anybody see PCN last night? It was Dave Arlen was on PCN on a call-in, rated the Pennsylvania Television Network. Did anybody listen to that or see that last night? Well, interesting enough, I called in, I couldn't handle it anymore. I listened to them, so I had to dial in. So I gave, I think when the announcer announced Rod from Muhlenberg, I have a feeling Arnold's ears went up. But anyway, the thing about the resolution that you voted for, it said it permits the legislatures to have, it permits them to amend the Constitution. It didn't say they have to. Now they probably will because of the vote. And it didn't say that local bodies, school boards, must enact if they do create a amendment to the Constitution that allows them to vote a reduction or removal of your property tax. In fact, as you know, you don't know maybe, we already have the right of municipality school boards to reduce your property tax by 50%. They've never done it. I don't know of any district they've done it. So now they're saying this resolution, they can enact a reduction of property tax anywhere from 50 to 100%. So even with that, there's no guarantee it's going to be 100%. So the resolution itself, or the way it was written, it's a lot of escape clauses in that I'm still overly concerned. In fact, as you know now, the state or the national government is working on a tax package, and there's a battle between the House and the Senate. Will they exempt property tax or income tax from having to pay state taxes, or are you not going to be able to exempt that when you do your taxes that you're going to pay twice? That's the battle going on. And those states with high local income tax, New York especially, will certainly not go along with that, but we'll see where it ends up. But as it now stands, if they try to figure out a way to make up the money that has to be made up if they pass this referendum, where do they get the money? Well, they're not going to raise taxes on business. We already at the very bottom of attracting business and jobs into Pennsylvania. So that looks like not a possibility. Are they going to raise income tax? Now, if you think of Pennsylvania, right now we are the second oldest by age-wise in the nation, next to Florida, where people go to retire. So if you go to income tax to make up what the homesteaders won't be paying, the wage earners are going to get nailed. And we already have kids finishing their college and going elsewhere for jobs because of the situation like I explained in Pennsylvania. It's going to be an interesting issue here, how they're going to satisfy this homestead exemption. And there'll be a lot more discussion on this till it's over. If one district would tax or would exempt 100%, so now you don't pay any property tax if you live in whatever district you're in. But if another district says, we're not going to enact it, because the way it was worded, it says they can, or they may, it doesn't say they have to. So if you live in a district that continues with property tax, and the state decides it takes an income tax to make up the difference, you'll pay your income tax to the state, and you'll pay your property tax to your school district. If I'm in a district that exempts property tax, I pay no property tax, but I get money from the state to cover the cost of education. I'll tell you what, the way this was written, it's just full of loopholes. It doesn't take a Philadelphia lawyer to figure it out. A nondescript like myself can at least read between the lines there. So all I can say is stay tuned to this. We're going to see where it goes. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Rod. The ballot question was very confusing. Some said possibly deliberate. I was working the polls. I had this gentleman talk to me before he went in. We talked about it, and he says, so I'm supposed to vote yes. I said, well, if you want to have possibility of school property taxes being reduced, that's what you want to go eliminated, that's what you want to do. He goes in, comes out, he says, you know, I read that question, and I know you still are supposed to vote yes. He said, but I wasn't sure. So, well, by my memory, I did vote yes, but had I not talked to you again, I would have voted no. So that's how confusing it was after just talking to me just a couple minutes before that. Okay, folks, now for the main event. This is what you all came for, our main speaker. Before I introduce Jack, I want to let you know that Jack recently got married. I think Jack, what, 10 days or so, something like that? 10 days. Wow. Fantastic young love. Linda, do you remember that far back?
I know.
You do? Well, I want to tell you, nothing has really changed, okay? Okay.
What do you mean?
Well, if we have to figure it out, no sense talking about it. Okay, folks. You figured it out yet, Linda? Okay, Jack has a large, long resume. I'm only going to read part of it. I know you would rather hear Jack, at least I know I would. Just go through part of this. Jack is a writer, filmmaker, recovering political operative. In 2016, Jack was Special Project Director for Citizens for Trump, the largest Trump grassroots organization in the U.S. Originally from the Philadelphia area, Jack has worked for 4 presidential campaigns, as well as numerous candidates for Senate, Congress, and governor. He is also a veteran for the U.S. Navy and multiple deployments overseas. I heard Jack. This guy is fantastic. But I want to tell you first that on his wedding day, he's a media target. They went after Jack on his wedding day. So, folks, hold on to your seats. This guy really motors. Let's welcome Jack Posobiec. You got it, Jack.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Wow. So I guess I have to tell the wedding story now because that's like, what do you mean they're going after me on my wedding day? So a lot of what I do, so I got into this, into politics. This is actually not the first time I've been out to a Berks County Patriots meeting. My very first one, I believe, was 7 years ago, all the way back in 2010. So, I mean, Philadelphia area, I'm from Norristown, which is right by King of Prussia, Montgomery County, and that's actually where I got married. It was right in Valley Forge. Just 10 days ago. So I got into this and started, posting on social media and Facebook and so many other places because I really found that even going back to 2010 and so many years ago that there just wasn't a conservative voice to be found in media. And I noticed that you turn on the radio, you turn on the TV, and there was some out there, and Fox News was out there, but even so many, it was kind of lukewarm, and it was still very leftist. It's always very leftist and kind of pushing a narrative. And then as we all saw, and I'm sure many people would agree with me today, that we saw CNN this past election. And we saw MSNBC, and we saw ABC and NBC. Even these organizations that in the past had been pretty fair and objective, outlets for coverage, were just being so anti-Trump, that were being so incredibly false in so much of their reporting that we just couldn't listen to them anymore. And so we said, what do we listen to? Well, we created our own media. We created our own voices. We created our own platforms through social media, Facebook, Twitter, live streaming, Periscoping, getting out there, going to events. And so I was going to a lot of events through my work with Citizens for Trump, and I outlined that in the book. I've got a few copies of the book here today if you guys want to check it out. I went to a ton of events, got to spend a lot of time with the president, a lot of time with Roger Stone, if you guys know who that is, a lot of time with Steve Bannon, who I was just with on Sunday up in New York. And we're really looking at a shift in the way that people view the country, because it's almost like there's a friend of mine says, it's like there's 2 movies going on, right? And you talk to someone who only lives in the CNN sort of left-wing world, and you would think that, so we're coming up on a year, right? A year of President Trump's being in office. When you talk to any of them, they say, well, it's a complete failure, and it's fiasco after scandal after fiasco, and you would think that he'd not done anything right. And then you talk to someone else who's on the more right side, and they would say, well, actually, unemployment is way down. The stock market is way up. Jobs are way up. Incomes are actually going up for the first time in so many years. So why aren't any of those facts, and those are demonstrable facts, those are not actually, that's not fake news. That's something that anyone can go and look at and measure, stock market being where it is. But you won't hear that on CNN. Instead, they want to talk about, oh, Donald Trump had 2 sips of water while he was giving a speech yesterday outside of the White House. And they said, oh, look at him, he's drinking water, look at him, he's drinking water. I'm like, well, yeah, he drinks water. He's thirsty. I just got off an airplane for like 20 hours from Asia, flying all the way from China. I would get thirsty too. So then we've seen these organizations, this media, that has just been hell-bent at stopping those of us that have created their own platforms, those of us that have started to go out there and tell the news, to show live stream video through Facebook and through Twitter, ways that we can show exactly what we're seeing, and it's not edited. Change things around and take things out of context. We just show what we're seeing and we show where we are. And I'm actually not doing it right now, so don't worry. But that's what we do, and I actually have one set up at my wedding. Well, the media, though, they get so mad about this because there's two things going on. One side is there's a political aspect to it, right? Because most people in independent media or new media, like we're calling it, tend to be a little bit more to the right. I consider myself center-right at this point. Or conservative. Conservative Christian is usually what I say if people ask. But these media organizations, they've gone so far to the left that they're the ones who start spinning these wild narratives about the fact that Donald Trump's campaign was a secret KGB operation and he was working with Putin to change the votes in Berks County so nobody would switch it around, and Hillary. Let me ask you guys, and I'll just ask, show of hands, how many Russians do we have in the room right now? Hold on, I can't quite see all the way in the back. Oh, one, maybe? Okay, all right, cool. That's fine. Oh, he's a joker, I see. Okay, well, how many of you guys were paid by the Russians to vote for Trump? All of you, right? Right. Oh, no, again, no. And that's what I said, too. So I would go to Trump events. I went to Trump rallies all the way throughout the country. I was going to ones in Cleveland, in Florida, in New York, in Wilkes-Barre, in Scranton. They had some really huge rallies. Down in Texas we went, Virginia, Ohio. And so I would remember seeing all those pictures and say, why isn't the media showing this? And I say, wait a minute, it's a bunch of Russian agents, Russian to me. They've all got American flags on and, like lapel pins or Donald Trump hat, or usually, quite a few veterans hats. I see a lot of veterans in the room today, so I know I'm in good territory. And not only veterans, but the spouses and families of veterans, because you ask any veteran, and I've certainly asked a lot, they say, how did you get through all that? So I got through it because of my family. And that's one thing that I've always talked about too, is that it's the families of veterans that they serve too. When you deploy, and I've deployed a number of times, it's your family. They're on deployment, they're serving too because of that time that you're apart. Anyone who's served in Iraq or Afghanistan or Vietnam or any of them, I'm just looking at the hats right now, or any of these conflicts, you get it. You know what it's like to be away, and your family knows what it was like to have you be away and not know when you're going to get. We heard about people receiving those letters or that knock on the door that nobody wants to hear, because that's what it means to serve, and that's why we don't kneel when the flag goes up. We take a minute out of our day and show some damn respect. So, I was getting married November 5th, and happiest day of my life, surrounded friends and family. Not quite as many people as we're hearing right now, but really good crowd. And all of a sudden, I start getting some text messages in, and I'm there with a friend of mine, Mike Cernovich, who also does a lot of new media journalism, and he says, Jack, there was some shooting out in Texas. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. This is, a couple hours later, and I later found out that the shooting at the church in Texas had happened. It was Sutherland Springs was the name of the place, and I think it was 26. Well, they said it was 26, but actually I would say it was 27 because one of them was a pregnant woman, and the child was also killed. So I would say it was 27, but that's my personal belief. And I said, that's terrible. What happened? They said, I don't know, but fake news. Newsweek, of all places, it wrote an article saying that you blamed it on Antifa. I said, wait a minute, I didn't, what are you talking about? I said, how did I do that, man? I don't know, but the article's right here. And it said, you're blaming this on, as it said, it was an Antifa attack, and I'm looking at Newsweek on his phone. And I said, how is that even possible? I just spent the last 3 hours in a church, standing at the altar, my wife walking down the aisle, her coming up to me. I have hundreds of witnesses, and they're telling me that I'm on Twitter blaming all this on Antifa. They said, well, yeah, he's creating a conspiracy theory. I said, what are they talking about? And they go back, and I went back 3 days, and I found 3 days ago, I had found, I think it was Sam earlier was talking about these Facebook groups that Antifa runs. And And I had gone on some of the Facebook groups, and I found on one of the group pages that someone had just randomly put a comment about targeting churches, because they know that churches are so much at the heart and center of conservative communities. And so I said, oh, look at the comment, and I just saw it, and I put it up, and then I just went about my day. I didn't know what was going on. So when the whole story came about as that they're attacking me on my wedding day, I said, well, did anyone do any research and to see that, no, I wasn't involved with Texas. I was getting married to my wife. Hundreds of people there, the priest was there, God was in attendance, I'd like to say. And no, I wasn't involved in this attack at all in any way. But they don't care. They don't care. So there's been no update on the article. They're not going to change it. They're not going to write anything about that. And so now, what they said to me, I know that's a lie, and I know I can prove it's a lie, but nobody cares on that side. Because the people that live in that world are just going to hear that story, and that's all they're ever going to listen to. And so that's why when stuff comes out about Donald Trump or Roy Moore, like we heard this week, that people take it with a grain of salt, and people have learned at this point to not believe the headlines the first time they're heard. And now I'm kind of back now, so to talk about the Roy Moore situation, I'm not going to put people on the spot today. We're not in Alabama, we're not voting on it, right? And it's a very emotional situation, and they're very serious issues, but the state of things the way they are, you go back 15 years, 20 years, people that saw that in the Washington Post, they would say, oh man, this guy, get rid of him, get him out of there. But now, with the conduct of the Washington Post and so many other of these media organizations, CNN, I would say, right at the top of the list there, New York Times as well, we now start to become very skeptical when we see these reports coming out within just, 4 weeks before the election, that suddenly there's these accusations, there's the stuff that came out of nowhere, and you're not even giving us time to process it or to understand the situation. But then we've got Mitch McConnell saying that he should drop out of the race before there's even been any time to evaluate what's going on. And it's amazing to me, because there's been so much that we've learned through 2016. And the way I like to say it is that Trump, for all the things he's also been the great revealer, because he's revealed the people in the party, our own party, that have said that they were Republicans for the longest time, but aren't actually there to care about winning races. They're not there to care about, building the party, doing outreach to groups that aren't traditionally Republican. They don't care about that whatsoever. They care about getting money, they care about getting their contracts, they care about lining their pockets, they care about having their money go up in their own bank accounts. They could care less. And the R is just kind of a thing they have next to their name to get them in the door, right? And so that's and there's a lot of, and that's where the term comes from, right? Rhino, Republican in name only, and so these are rhinos. And now Trump has whatever you think about the president, so I'm gonna like him. If I don't like him, that's fine. But what he's shown where these people are, Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, I would definitely call him Mitt Romney. Oh my goodness, the stuff that's come out of that guy's mouth, and John McCain, and so many of us spend time working for them, knocking on doors, making phone calls, hours and hours of our time, putting money into the gas tank, driving places to go volunteer, go to rallies, go to all those sorts of different things. And only to hear them turn, and Donald Trump during all those years, he was supportive of McCain, he was supportive of Romney, he donated, he endorsed, he did speeches, he went along because, I might not be the best guy, but that's the guy the party's putting up, so sure, I'll support the guy, he's the party guy, that's what I'm going for. And that's how I felt too, after so many years, to say, wait a minute, you guys don't actually care about the country, you guys don't actually care about doing the right thing for the families of this country, you don't care about the people that I saw that were being sent off to war and then brought home, and when they came back, it's like, what is there for them? You're sending our jobs overseas, you're not doing anything in terms of taxes, you're trying to push these crazy Obamacare programs that we can't get rid of. And I just want to say that too, that the fact that we have the House, the Senate, and the White House, and that 8 times the Republican Party vote under Obama when it didn't matter. 8 times they voted to repeal Obamacare and the Democrats just shut it down. But now that we're in office, they can't get the votes to repeal it. That's a disgrace. That's an absolute disgrace.
And other people they would say, well, Jack, well, hold on a second. Jack, I thought you were a conservative. I thought you were a Republican. Why are you being so hard on the Republicans? And I've got friends that are still more, I call them like establishment sided, and they'll talk to me. A few of them will still talk to me, and they'll say, Jack, why are you going so hard against Republicans? I mean, the Democrats, the liberals, the left, the socialists, the communists are out there. And believe me, we do quite a few about that. Actually, there's a viral video of an Antifa group assaulting me back in April. Well, we actually got the guy that took a swing at me, and guess what? He's going to jail. So we just got that. He's actually getting locked up. He's actually going to jail because I came up there and I testified. I said I do want to press charges, and we can't have this. We can't have this. Period. We need to. We got to have peace. We can't have violence. So, question?
Yeah, didn't they throw you out the trunk lane?
Oh, yeah. You mentioned, I forget to mention that one. Do you guys remember when they had that wasn't me, you're right. When they did the...
What is wrong? And you're like...
Yeah, when they... well, you need to tell the story, yeah.
Up there and telling everyone...
Remember the Julius Caesar. Remember the Julius Caesar in the park in New York when they were stabbing Trump?
And they're like, you gotta go. And he's like, security's grabbing him. You're doing it. You're doing it wrong. They're like, they pulled him out. He's like, stop. What? You guys are wrong.
So it was myself and a couple of friends, we took it upon ourselves to go into New York to see this violence. And I would put it in the same kind of vein, like the same kind of spectrum, in a sense, as the Antifa violence, because these people are holding plays in New York City, in Manhattan, Central Park, right, with Americans cheering and clapping as an actor who's portraying our president, an American citizen, a father, a grandfather, being brutally and bloodily stabbed to death on stage every single night. And these people were cheering it, and so we kind of stormed the stage and said, you need to stop. And that got pretty big. We were on Fox News and Hannity and all that stuff. And because we do need to stop that, because they're telling people that it's okay, right, to stab Trump and to kill Trump, and they say, oh, it's just a play, it's just a play. Well, these Antifa people are watching that and saying, you're right, we do have to commit violence, and that's where they're getting sort of their programming. That's why they're getting some of this messaging to say, well, it's okay to attack Trump. That means it must be okay to attack anyone who supports Trump. And now we have a problem, don't we? Because there's 65 million people who support Trump. And these Antifa nut jobs, they think and I've met them in person. They start kind of shaking when you get you're Jack Posobiec. Yeah, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. It's what would you like to talk about today? What's your feelings? Shut up, you're a Nazi, you're a Nazi. No, I'm not a Nazi. I'm just American. I'm actually Polish. My family was killed by Nazis. My grandfather fought the Nazis. So yeah, definitely not a Nazi. Oh no, I know you are. Well, how do you know? It's like, well, I read about the Young Turks, or I saw it on Media Matters, and these George Soros sort of organizations out there. And it's such a joke, but we have to understand that this is where these people are taking their cues from. This is where they're getting their information, and they're becoming radicalized. And it's because of plays like that Julius Caesar, and it's because of stuff that's going out there talking about violence, talking about targeting Republicans. Steve Scalise shot, almost killed, thank God he wasn't killed, but almost killed by one of these people who believed that, and he had his Facebook page up, and people went and looked at it, James T. Hodgkinson, and he waited at that baseball field where they were having the practice for the congressional baseball players. He waited out there for weeks, they said. And because it had been printed in the New York Times, that's where they were going to have the practice. He waited out there with his rifle until the Republicans showed up. Rand Paul was part of that. I don't think he was hit, but he was shot at. A number of other congressmen were there, and Scalise was almost killed because of one of these guys. And they looked at his Facebook, and every single part of it was, oh, the Republicans are all Russians, and they're all KGB, and we need to take them out, and someone's got to do something about it, and I've got to be the one to do something about it. Are you giving me the water? Oh, here we go. Here we go. I got two. I'll do 2 sips. I don't care. So no, I'm okay right now. So I'm okay. I'm gonna still go. So I'm a trained public speaker. So I do this all the time. So you look at though, and it's funny we left, but it's these people are getting violent, and they're getting radicalized. And this is something that we read about in in the military, something that we studied during counterterrorism. I did a deployment to Guantanamo Bay, worked in the interrogation cell down there, and I got to learn a lot about how someone goes from being a regular person on the street to becoming radicalized, to becoming a member of one of these terrorist organizations. Now, in that case, it was radical Islamic terror, typically Al-Qaeda, and then we also had some people from Libya and Syria, which eventually became ISIS, but now we're seeing the same thing here at home with Antifa. Yes?
Don't forget, now, you being a veteran, you're radicalized too, you know?
Oh, right, yes. We had exactly. So for the last 8 years under Barack Obama, we had the Department of Homeland Security and all of these other organizations looking into veterans groups and looking into Tea Party groups and probably groups like the Berks County Patriots, say, those are the people that we have to look out for radicals. Those are the people that we have to look out for violence. And I gotta tell you, I remember the Tea Party. I was part of the Tea Party, 2009, 2010 area, and I don't remember a single Tea Party member ever committing violence. Ever once committing violence, the same way that I don't remember anyone who's been a member of the NRA conducting one of these mass shootings. But for some reason, every single time there is one, people want to blame the NRA. And I turned around and said, wait a minute. No, the NRA are the people that follow the law. You guys are the ones breaking the law, not the NRA. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to them because, again, they're pushing an agenda. They're pushing, it's all pre-scripted for them. It's all pre-scripted. I actually caught, it's kind of small, but it was part of the Roy Moore situation. So if you guys followed this Roy Moore, the scandal, the allegations that are out, and I don't know if you want me to talk about that, I know it's weird, but we caught, so the stepson, I mean, I'm walking through this, it's a little weird, but I'll walk through it. The stepson of the woman that accused him, right, when she gave her big press conference earlier this week, her stepson has been all over his Facebook this week. He must have posted a dozen videos of just him talking to his phone and saying, yeah, my dad's wife is a liar. She's making this all up. This is lies. This is nothing. And it's just him sitting on his bed talking. He said, yeah, that's my dad's wife. Married her 14 years ago, and she's not trustworthy. She's a liar. She's in it for the money. He just keeps saying it, and he won't stop. And he said, my dad keeps calling me to tell me to stop, and I'm not going to stop because I'm telling you this is what I think is the truth, and I don't appreciate what she's doing, and I don't appreciate what this media is doing. They're here in the middle of an election, and she's a liar. Again, I don't know the facts of the case, right? I wasn't there. None of us were there. But he's the son, the stepson, saying he's a liar. So that she's a liar. So he gets contacted by CNN. And CNN says, well, we'd like to have you on. And we'd like to hear what you have to say. And so he starts, and he posted up all of these text messages between some CNN reporter and himself. And he said, well, what are we're going to talk about. And the CNN producer says, well, we know that you're Roy Moore's stepson, and that you're calling her a liar. And we want to know the truth about, did Roy Moore put you up to saying that? And he just responded, no, you are fake news. But if you think about that for a second, right? So CNN, when they contacted him, they knew that they were taking, now at best, you could say the person made a mistake, right? A horrible mistake, and should absolutely be nowhere near the news or writing headlines or having anything to do with facts or truth. He's not the son of Roy Moore. He's the stepson of this woman who made the accusation. It's complete backwards from what's true. But you could see that this is the person who's supposed to be the fact checker, right? Supposed to be checking you in and telling you what the actual facts are. He has the same, her last name is Nelson, his last name is Nelson. This isn't that hard. His last name isn't Moore. You'd think that people would be able to figure this out. But again, is it laziness? And it might be. It certainly might be. This is CNN we're talking about. Or is it something worse? Is it something worse in where they already had fabricated a narrative that Roy Moore's son is lying and is attacking these victims, and that's what they were going to publish, regardless of if he said yes to the interview or not. Well, what he did was he screenshotted the guy's text messages and put those on his Facebook too, and said, no, you're a liar, and you're making up stuff, and you are fake news, and I'm going to call you out. And I think it's amazing, the fact that there's this one guy, I mean, probably about my age, and he's just sitting in his bedroom, and he's just beating the entire mainstream media because he has the facts on his side. And that's all he needs is the truth. That's all he needs is the truth. And I imagine they're going to shut down his Facebook or something like that eventually to not let him be able to say this stuff. But it just goes to show you that these people in the mainstream media, they have a narrative that's already preset before they even talk to you. Before they even do any journalism or any investigation, they already know what the story is, and they just want to get your comment on that. And that's what happens to me all the time too. If they write a story about me, and they reach out to me for, oh, what's your comment, Jack? And I'm like, what do you mean, what's my comment? You just sent me like 3 comments, you're full of crap, how about that? And they say, oh, Jack Posobiec responded back with a slur and a derogatory statement because you're full of crap. And I was like, and they just move on to the next one, and they just move on to the next one. Well, I'm sick of it, and I'm tired of it, and I'm here to say that I'm so glad to see that the Berks County Patriots are still here, that out of all the places, I've seen you guys, Lehigh 912 is still out there, York 912 I believe still has regular meetings, and it's so amazing to see Pennsylvania, right? Pennsylvania, which went red for the first time last year in almost my lifetime, that we are really the ones that are keeping it all together. That we're standing there by the skin of belief, by the skin of our teeth in that final election tally. I remember Jill Stein was, we're going to do a recount, give me $1 million, give me $2 million. Oh, we can't do a recount, see? And so, Jill, where's the money we get? Oh, yeah. And so, yeah, what you going to do with that money? So that's not a bad move. Run for election, don't win any state, pocket $3 million. Yeah. Jill Stein might be a socialist, but she's one of the best damn capitalists I've ever seen, right? So she's even lying about that. Well, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for the water. Oh, it's not open. Sam, it's not open. What are you doing? Oh! You're going to tell me something? Trying to tell me? So, here's what you do, right? So, there's 2 ways to do the water. There's Marco Rubio he kept his eye contact the entire time, like a creep. Who does that, right? No, you look at the bottle of water, you say, all right, yeah, I'm going to drink a bottle of water, and then you go on with your day. Just like that. So weird. What I'm talking about too, he was looking at people while he was taking a sip of water. I was like, who does that? It's just bizarre. I mean, I don't know. Marco's a nice guy. He's a little bit, but he's a nice guy. I don't even know what I was talking about. So that's what I do predominantly. It's not even necessary. We're not even in the point where we're talking about like policy anymore, and that's what's so terrible is that we can't even talk about policy in terms of the Second Amendment, or in terms of taxes, or in terms of jobs, or in terms of healthcare, because these people on the left won't even agree with us on what the truth is. They won't even agree with us on what the facts are, the basic facts of what are going on in our daily lives. And so we have to take it a step back and start doing their job for them, start doing real journalism, real investigations, actually going to places, actually visiting areas they're lying about. So, do you guys remember when Donald Trump gave a speech and he talked about Sweden? And he said, I remember there was this horrible stuff I'm hearing about Sweden, all this terrible stuff that's going on out there. And the media said, oh, there's nothing going on in Sweden, you're crazy. Donald Trump is crazy, Sweden's totally fine. And there's nothing going on. Now, if you guys haven't followed the situation, what's been going on is Sweden is part of the refugee crisis. And so Europe as a whole has taken in over 1 million of these migrants. And they say they're from Syria, but they're not all from Syria. In fact, most of them are from parts outside of Syria, parts like Turkey, areas like Somalia even, all across the Middle East. And they're all going into Europe. And a lot of them, they make their way through Germany, and then they go up north and they go to Sweden. Sweden has actually taken in the most per capita, so by population, more migrants than any other country in Europe. And when you're talking about it now, people say, well, you know, they helped bring in refugees from World War II, they helped bring in refugees from the Cold War, you know, this is, well, it's actually different. It's a little different because there's a culture clash there, right? There's going to be a culture clash. So my wife, now my girlfriend at the time, we went there. We actually went to Sweden, and we went to one of these no-go zones right there in Malmö, Sweden, called Rosengard, and nobody was Swedish there. Not a single Swede in the entire room, the entire town, and the very day we got there, there had been a high school kid who was just standing at the bus stop and was waiting to go out to the bus, and he was shot in the back. in the middle of a gang fight between the Iraqis and the Somalis that were there. Because I think it was, if I remember this correctly, the Iraqi gangs had kind of been there before first, and then the Somali gangs were kind of coming up and coming with the new migrants, and it was sort of a turf war, and they were getting into all this stuff, and they were bringing drugs in and all this. And this kid was caught in the crossfire, and he died. And we went there and showed the candlelight vigil. And so I said, now hold on a second. So you're going to tell me, the entire mainstream media is telling me there's nothing going on in Sweden, but I found this right here. And then we found out about hand grenade attacks that were going on in Sweden. Hand grenade attacks that were going on. And nightclub bombings. Just in the past two months, there's been over a dozen nightclub bombings in Sweden. Nobody's talking about it anymore. Nobody's even bringing it up. Right, I have a friend over there, I don't even know his real name, he goes by Peter Sweden, and he translates these local reports, because you can still get true, information from these local places, but it never really seems to make it up to the higher levels. So he'll take these reports and aggregate them and put it up, and then translate it so we can see it, and then I try to blast it out to a bigger audience. So we talk about some of these attacks that have been going on, talking about the massive increase in rape that's going on in Sweden and the other countries in Europe. And it's just like, so when Donald Trump says something like that's going on, and the media says, no, Trump is lying. And I said, well, I went there, and he's not lying. He's actually true. So where are you guys getting your information, and why aren't you telling us the truth? And that's why myself and other people that are now up and coming, doing like we do, and the website Breitbart, great website, Steve Bannon's running that again, a lot of great people there. They're telling stories that no one else is telling anymore. They're telling stories, and yes, you know what, they do have a conservative bent to them. They're right out front there, and they tell you about it, right? So I actually got to meet Andrew Breitbart a few times back in 2012, actually just a couple weeks before he passed away. And I remember he was giving a speech into a room not much bigger than this, and he said, and I won't guess you do it now, but he used to say, he said, everybody who's got a smartphone, reach in your pocket and hold it up, and he made everybody do it, right? And, and he said, guess what? Every single one of you is a journalist. Every single one of you is someone who can tell a story, because if you see something, you can film something, and you can share that with the world, and you can get the truth out. So I always ask this question, and let's forget it, I'll ask you guys. Who was the #1 journalist in all of 2016, the entire campaign? Trump. Well, Trump. It was Trump, but there was a certain video that came out one day that was, I would say, probably the #1 video of the entire campaign. There you go. Somebody said it. Scott, you said it? Yeah, it was the Hillary fainting video. You guys all saw that, right? When she fainted. Now, who got that video? Was it CNN? Was it MSNBC? Was it Fox News? Was it? No, it was Dennis Garza, a volunteer firefighter from New Jersey, on his day off, went to the 9/11 memorial and saw Hillary Clinton faint out, in front of a crowd of Secret Service, and he said, oh, I better take a film of this. This is kind of interesting. And films her getting essentially placed back into her van by her security detail and her staff. And think about it. Just think about if that video hadn't come out, because people like myself, other people were out there who had raised some questions about Hillary Clinton's health, had raised some questions about this, and they said, well, you guys are all just conspiracy theorists. You guys are all just making that up. You guys are crazy. You guys are, it's like when Bill Clinton's accusers first came out. You remember when Bill Clinton's accusers, Juanita Broderick, Monica Lewinsky, Paula Jones, and she said it's a vast right-wing conspiracy. It's just a conspiracy against me. That's what it is, and every single one of them has proven to be true. Every single one. So this, again, they would have said the same thing. If that video hadn't come out, they said, oh, she just, felt dizzy for a moment, had to get a glass of water, and walked away. And that would have been it. But because he had that video, he was able to show the world something that the media had been hiding. And it's my contention that this probably wasn't the first time that she's done that, right? It probably wasn't the first time that it happened, because the entire staff around her, the Secret Service, everyone, nobody acted surprised whatsoever. They just reacted. They went exactly into their pre-planned responses. They knew exactly what to do, exactly how to act. Even her staffers that were not Secret Service trained just kind of acted like it was another day at the office of Hillary, right? So how many times, my question is, how many times have this happened around these mainstream media cameras and they didn't show it? How many times did they say, oh, that's, you know, don't show that, that's not newsworthy? Right? So because that one fire, and how great is it that it was a firefighter, right? How great was it that it was firefighter, one of our law enforcement personnel, you know, first responder types, that saw this and put it out there and said, no, you guys are all lying. And this is the truth, and I'm going to show the world the truth. How powerful was that moment? And that to me, that is the future. That is the future that I mean, myself as a millennial, and my friends, and you know, well, kids, hopefully, you know, soon enough. That not too soon. No, just give me a little bit more. I don't know. How long should I wait? What do you think? I mean, I'm sure there's some parents here. How long? 2 years? Give it 2 years. 20 years. 20 years. Oh man. There. Oh, my wife will go for that. I don't know if she's watching right now. Yeah, Linda.
56.
56. Oh boy. Well, I don't want to take up too much. How much time do I have?
Another 5 minutes and we'll do some Q&A.
Well, I was supposed to, do you want to just open up the Q&A? I'm sure people have questions. So I travel quite a bit. I go to Europe. I did a lot of stuff with the campaign. Just with Steve Bannon on Saturday. Had a lot of great talks with him about 2018 and how we're going into things. I've been to the White House a few times. Dinner with Ron Spicer a couple days ago. Open up to a variety of questions if you're interested.
Why is Hillary allowed to get away with having a private email server and deleting all those emails?
Why? I mean, that's kind of an existential question. I would love to know the answer. No, why is because, and I'll bring up uranium one as well as a case of this, because during the Barack Obama administration, they politicized the Department of Justice. And they politicized, it's the deep state as another line of it. And they politicized the Department of Justice to such an extent that there were people from both parties that knew about these crimes that were going on, that knew about the emails, that knew about uranium one, that knew about the sale of our nuclear material to the state of Russia, the fact that it was under FBI investigation, that it was completely swept under the rug, that James Comey wrote his assessment, right, wrote his summary, even before interviewing her, even before having any investigation, he had already declared her innocent. So this is the real corruption. And in my estimation, Jeff Sessions, who I think is a good man, I think he's an honorable man, I think he's been compromised. I think that Jeff Sessions personally has been compromised in such a way when he says he's not going to do any investigation into Hillary, any investigation into the Clinton Foundation. I think, well, sir, if you can't be the Attorney General, then maybe you shouldn't be the Attorney General at this point. Maybe it's time to step over. Maybe he can be Department of Homeland Security. I think there's a lot of great opportunities for him, but to continue on as Attorney General when he's done nothing, he's allowed, essentially Robert Mueller is running the Department of Justice at this point. I think Sessions should resign, and then Trump should fire Rod Rosenstein, who knew about the Uranium One investigation and covered it up. He should also fire Andrew McCabe, whose wife was taking money from Terry McAuliffe, or Clinton's, who's not going to be the governor of Virginia, and it just goes, yeah, right, it just goes round and round and round. And we need to just take, like, kind of just draw a line at the DOJ and FBI and fire everyone above it and just replace all of them. Yes.
Any other questions? Questions?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you've been these. Oh, well, congratulations! Congratulations, Ernest. Yes. Right away. Okay, right away.
Any other questions, folks?
Behind you.
Here we are.
Do you think that Trump is going to wait until Congress is out of the session so he can make an interim replacement of Sessions? Repeat the question.
So the question was, I can repeat. The question was, so, and it's a good question. The background is, so if Trump was to replace Jeff Sessions, he would have to get it confirmed through the Senate. But there's such a thing called a pocket appointment. And that means, when Congress is in recess, the president has the ability to make a direct appointment to someone into that position, and that they can then sit there until the time comes that Congress is back and they have they have a chance to do a vote on it. I don't know. I honestly don't have a good answer for this, other than we need an Attorney General who's up to the task of performing the job, the duties that are entailed of it, right? We need someone who's able to be an attorney general, and I don't think Jeff Sessions is the one. So the question then becomes, who can we put in there, right, that the Senate will allow us to confirm? So that becomes the double-edged question.
There was mention of, I don't know, one of the cabinet officials that has been confirmed, Homeland Security or someone, that perhaps that person would be pulled in by Trump and therefore would negate the requirement that they be approved by Congress.
I don't think so. So I think you're talking about Kristen Nielsen, who was just confirmed for Homeland Security. No?
I forget.
Okay. Well, I know Kristen Nielsen was confirmed. You have to get confirmed for each position. So even if it was someone who was already confirmed, they would need to be run through the Senate again for the next position. So Rachel Brand is currently, I think, the Deputy Assistant Attorney General. As far as I know, she's, this is the question I've been asking to my folks at DOJ. I said, all right, well, find me somebody over here who's not one of these dirty cops, right? Find me someone who's not Mueller, who's not Comey, who's not Rosenstein, whatever happened to Sessions. I don't know what happened, but it happened, right? We just got to get over it. So Rachel Brand is kind of the next one on the totem pole, and I've heard some talk about potentially her stepping up. Because if they did fire them, then she would become acting.
Yeah, Jack, question about like the millennial generation and younger generations. You know, people younger than yourself have, you know, suffered under a really kind of propagandized education system. So how effective have you personally seen in reaching out to people, let's say younger than you, in their mid-20s, who just maybe don't know to question different news sources? How effective has your outreach been to them and other people who do the similar things you do?
Yeah, well, you know the nice thing about Generation iPhone is that they didn't pay very much attention in school, and I actually think that might help us out politically a little bit. Because they missed a lot of the indoctrination because they were playing on their phones. So I think that the powers that be didn't expect that, right, to happen, because they're sitting playing video games, and you guys are saying all this. No, what I found, though, is that people, when it comes to millennials, they have a whole different, and I've actually been studying this issue. I've really been studying this issue, because for them, it's all about two things. It's about personality and credibility, right? They will stick with somebody. They care more about personalities than they care about CNN, you know, that brand name. They want to know, who is this person that's talking to me on CNN? Who wrote this article in the New York Times, right? Because that's how they interact with media. They interact with a Facebook account, or they interact with one of their buddies, or one of their buddies on Snapchat, or Instagram, or Twitter. So they're more interested in individuals, and they don't really take it very well when there's some sort of like corporate logo in front of it, right? They're interested much more in hearing who this individual is. And so when they see a guy like, you know, Jake Tapper, Anderson Cooper, Wolf Blitzer, that kind of, Don Lemon, right? Don Lemon, what a piece of work that guy is. My friend Roger Stone had some interesting comments about him, and the other day he was kicked off of Twitter for it. So I don't need to repeat this. He had an interesting evening, but they don't like it when someone's up here and they say, well, you look like my uncle. Like I want someone who looks like me, who sounds like me, who's not reading off a script, who's just being a normal person and telling me what they think. And I can agree with them or not, but I just want someone that I can relate to. So it's that relatability it's not the Walt. They're not looking for a Walter Cronkite, right? They're not looking for I would say Brian Williams. We all know he's a liar. He had like a year or two where he was pretty good. You know, he was trying to kind of play the Peter Jennings role for a little while, and then that went to shit. Excuse me. Navy guy, what can I say? But no, it's that relatability is what they're looking for. And it has to be genuine. I mean, you look at Ed Gillespie and his abysmal campaign in Virginia, and I could speak for another hour about how terrible that was. But he came impeached, or Mitt Romney, right? They tried to come across as these cookie cutter CEO type executives that just fail. They don't want that. They just want people to be themselves. Don't be fake. I said, just don't be fake. Okay. I'll show your hand up there. We'll do it here and then.
You gotta put the mic here.
Oh, you got the mic.
Yes. I was in history teacher for 35 years.
God bless.
And I would be kicked out today, I would put it that way. But I could see in those 35 years, with graduate school I took at Temple in the 60s, and student teachers that came in from Kutztown, primarily colleagues in our area. Over the, I'd say 25 of those years, you can gradually see step by step how they were being watered down and their views, and actually the socialistic movements, and the concept, well, we shouldn't teach past the Civil War because it's too much American history. Well, you shouldn't continue. People of your status and ability to meet all kinds of influential individuals, I'm sure. Is there a possibility that somehow we can encourage the populations of our, that live in our school districts to get more involved in the kinds of people that are being hired? Now, in science and math, you can't cheat. Because you're a communist, you can't say 2 + 2 is 6. They might try it, but it doesn't work. But in the social sciences, you can align everything you want. And that, to me, is the most important part right now. I'm not negating science or math. That's necessary for a technological situation in this country. But I think the most important thing now is somehow people like you who would have influence in getting people rallied around to somehow have more citizen input. How could you do that?
So the internet, to me, it's become this gateway. It's become a portal. It's become a reflection for so many people in their communities, and especially at the younger generations. They look to their internet community and their favorite internet celebrities and all these different things before they look to their physical communities. It's weird, kind of thing that's changing. But they look at these groups and these outlets as their celebrities. So what I would encourage is for folks to kind of do what I've talked about today a little bit more, is that if you're someone in your community and you want to start doing more, then start up your own Facebook page, start up your own Twitter platform, or Periscope, live streaming ability, YouTube channel, and you can just say, I'm going to start talking about this. And you just do it once a day. You do it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and you can talk about local issues, or you can talk about these issues from a perspective of that community and put it out there. And eventually, using these algorithms on Facebook, because they will base it around your community, it'll start to generate attention. And it'll start, and because people will share it with their friends that are in that community, they'll share it with others. Say, oh, I like this guy. He's talking about what's going on in town. And it's an amazing thing that's happening. We're seeing so many more sources of content and so many more voices that are coming out and plugging in, because there was this whole period of time where people just stopped talking to their neighbors, right? And I would say like that really through the 90s and then into the early 2000s, people just stopped talking to their neighbors. And I try to talk to my neighbors a lot now, but I live in DC, so sometimes you don't want to talk to them. But there's ways that back home that we can encourage this more community involvement. So that's one way that I found very effective, is just literally having someone stick that phone in front of their face and talk to it, and you will generate followers, and you will generate a conversation. And it's one way to cut through all this negativity and these lies that are being preached from so many institutions in our society today.
2 more questions, Jack.
Hi, I would say YouTube has been such an avenue for me. That's where I found you and Cernovich and many others. And I would like to know, since you're in these halls of brilliant minds, I think, why didn't President Trump get rid of all Obama appointees? Because we're having trouble down at the border now again with catch and release, and we're having trouble with the cartels coming in Texas. I read this morning, I think it was on Breitbart. So, is there any idea why he hasn't done that? I did Times.gov, I asked him that. But, you know.
This has been sort of one of the #1 questions, and I say this to people, is President Trump has won the White House. And that's all we want. And it is a beachhead in Washington, D.C. So from around there, you've still got the House, you've still got the Senate, you've still got the lobbyists, you've still got the bureaucracies, you've still got so many years and quite realistically a generation of this call it the swamp, right? We call it the swamp. Is the best way that he described it, that we still have to deal with. So we've got one beachhead in the swamp, but there's so much that needs to be uprooted and so much that needs to be done. And at the same time, the other side is coming at us from all sorts of directions with Russia and accusation after this issue, that issue, that it's not going to be an overnight kind of thing. And unfortunately, from people like Mitch McConnell have actually been holding up our nominees, holding up our appointees that the President and the White House have sent over to the Senate and say, these are the people that I'd like to be appointed. These are the people that I'd like to have in these agencies. These are the people I'd like to have as these ambassadors, and just the whole 9 yards of it. And they just hold on it, or judges. There's even judicial candidates that are being held up right now in the Republican Senate. And so that's kind of why I was talking earlier about how I'm much more interested in cleaning up at our own house right now first, before we start worrying about Democrats.
Question. I'm Secretary of State. I authorized 20% of my uranium to Russia. I've given billions to Iran that can now develop nuclear capability. I've given hundreds of billions to North Korea so they can create capability of destroying us. I'm in return getting $145 billion to my foundation, and thank my husband for getting $500,000 to give him a speech. Has the word treason disappeared from Washington?
You see, and it's that you're hitting the nail on the head, because so many of these people in D.C. are all on the take themselves. Right? Possibly not as much as the Clinton crime family, but now we're hearing stuff that's coming out about John Boehner, stuff that he was into, the Bush family and Jeb, and stuff that they were into involved with Common Core and some of these programs that they pushed that they were making money off with their other brother. And so it becomes such a situation where they're all covering for one another because they've all got little things that are going on inside here and there. But with Hillary, the Clintons, it's quite possibly the greatest political criminals in United States history, with the amount of money and the amount of selling out to other countries, Islamists, and every group under the sun, that they didn't care. They didn't care whatsoever because they were the Clintons and they were in it for this right here. That's all they cared about.
Yeah.
Yes?
Just before I conclude, mention about your book and also
Sure. So, to mention about my book. So, I do have a couple of copies of my book with me tonight. We talked all about the work we did through 2016, how we used a lot of these tactics and a lot of this internet activism to really win the vote and to create our own platforms. And when I say, but the problem is that when I say I have a couple of books, I'm actually being quite literal because I only have two. What happens is, so I get my books through a company that's a subsidiary of Amazon, and funny enough, Amazon isn't too good about giving conservatives their books. So I requested several cases of books a few weeks ago, and they still just can't find a way to get them to me. I don't know what that is. So I said I was speaking. I told them. I called them on the phone. I said I was speaking in Reading on Thursday night. And I'm flying to Chicago. My wife and I are flying to Chicago to speak out there with the Phyllis Schlafly Eagle Forum. They're having an event in Chicago on Tuesday. And then we're flying back on Wednesday, which is the day before Thanksgiving, and I don't even know if I'm going to be home for Thanksgiving, quite honestly. We're taking a 5 a.m. flight, so hopefully it'll be quick enough. But I'm not even going to have books from that, so I'm going to fly all the way out there. So I have two books there. However, if you guys go to Amazon, and if you are so interested, and if I haven't bored you to tears already, that my book is called Citizens for Trump. And I call it Citizens for Trump. We have a couple copies in the back, and I call it that because, to me, that's why Trump won. People always say, why did he win? And I said, it's not because of him, it's not because of the media, it's because of citizens. It's because of citizens. Just regular people. And on the cover of it, I've got a picture of Trump and then at one of these massive rallies. I think it actually is the Wilkes-Barre rally. And people, and I said, And people say, well, Jack, why are you writing a book about Trump? But I say, I'm not writing a book about Trump. I'm writing a book about the movement. I'm writing a book about the Americans that decided they were sick and tired and fed up with the lies on TV and the lies coming out of DC, and they wanted to do something about it. And they said, well, Jack, Donald Trump isn't a politician. I said, I know, that's the point. All right, any last questions real quick? I know I'm probably over that.
I think that's going to be it. Jack, thank you so much. Fantastic. Really great. Have a safe trip home.
All right, a couple announcements before we close this meeting. Last year we did a really great collection of coats for homeless veterans, and we're doing that again this year. So if you have any coats in your closet, even children's coats, some of these people have children that they need to take care of. Okay, Ted and Celeste Podowski are going to be coming here next month and taking all the coats with them. If you want to drop them off in advance, just like last year, I'll get it posted on the website. They do collect them at their home in Exeter Township. Coats, blankets, tents, things like that. You would not believe the contingent of homeless veterans we have in Berks County. Deborah and I personally know about 6 different camps where they live at, and there's quite a few people living in them. So they're out there, and they're out there all over the place, and they actually could use some help if it's awfully cold in the winter. Also, I don't know how many tickets are left for the gun raffle. 12 tickets left. Okay, we're almost out of them, so if you want to purchase one before you leave, see Paul there. But again, next month is for the veterans. It is strictly a honoring party for them, just like it is every December. We'd like you to bring, canned goods, things like that. If you have any friends that are veterans or family members, whatever, bring them along with you. We have sponsors again for food and everything, and then whatever's left over is going to go to the, where are we sending it to this year? Yeah, they were going to take it someplace, but anyways, I forget where they said they were taking it. I just saw them the other day, but anyways, it's one of the veterans. Again, we could use your help. Bring whatever you can. Canned goods are really good. Things that are non-perishable. Things that they can store for periods of time. And we thank you all for what you're going to do. And let's close this meeting in prayer. The Hope Rescue Mission. Right. And there's 6 hot dogs, and I see Ed Bender's here somewhere. So if you guys don't eat them, we're going to force feed them to Ed Bender. So help him out. He's going to eat 6 hot dogs. So again, let's close this meeting. What's that, Rose? Oh yes, yeah. As usual, we're having our meeting early. It is on the 14th, and I almost did forget to announce that. Thank you, Rose. I think the first year we did it, some people showed up a week late for the meeting. So please don't do that. Our meeting in December is on the 14th, same time, but it'll be on Thursday the 14th. So let's close this meeting in prayer. Gracious Heavenly Father, we do thank you and praise you for this time we've had together. We do pray for Jack, our speaker. We pray you keep him safe on the journey. We pray that Amazon find his books wherever they may be and get them to him. And we just thank you, Father, that there are people bold enough to go out and speak conservatively, speak the truth. We do pray that the youth of America would learn the truth, whether it be through social media, through contact with friends and family. I just thank you that there are those of us that will tell them the truth. And just thank you, Father, that you're in control, that we know that no matter what happens, it is your plan, and that you're in control at the end of the day. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.